Welcome. It is Allie and Bryce with Audacy as part of our Celebrations in Pride series. And we are here with one of the best, Tyler Glenn of Neon Trees. I Can Feel You Forgetting Me album out right now. First of all, Tyler, how are you feeling? Because I saw recently, last year, you had a stroke. How are you feeling now? I mean, quite a recovery, I would imagine.
Yeah, I kind of had it was a scare. I woke up with a retinal stroke in my eye and had to go get admitted and get all checked out. But luckily I'm good. It's one of those weird flukes where some particle in my body went to my eye instead of my brain. So I'm actually really lucky that it didn't cause further damage. It's scary. I'm only, 37, so it's kind of bizarre, but thank you for asking.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
mortality, huh?
What's that, Bryce?
I was just saying that'll make you check your mortality, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Well, good. We're glad to hear you're doing well and making new music. Are you getting back out there with live performances yet? I know that, you announced a show coming up in your home state pretty soon. I think that's in September, though. Are you doing anything before that?
We have a couple like one-off shows on the books, which is really exciting because we haven't really played together. But I just saw the band this week. We're in the studio making new tunes. So I think we're so excited that a bunch of our friends and peers are getting out there on full tours. I think we're just sort of like letting them do it first to see like how it all goes. But I'm so stoked that like all the live events and experiences looks like they're gonna stick. So I'm really happy.
Well, and Pride too events. I thought I saw you at a Pride recently. Have you already been to some? Are you planning on going to some? What's your Pride plan this year?
Yeah, Salt Lake, which is where I have my home, totally celebrated in any way they could. And I got to, I'm fully vaccinated now, so I got to go to like a dance party, and it was really bizarre and exciting. And I felt 23 again. So I think I'm out in LA now. I don't think LA is doing as much, but anywhere that it's safe and fun, I'm totally down for people to celebrate. It's important to get back out there.
Well, when you do get back out there, if you go to any, I think there are a couple small Pride events in LA. I recommend wearing that shirt. I think it'll do very well.
Yeah, it wouldn't be one more button down,
Yeah, exactly. Obviously you have some history with your coming out story and with your journey with your own sexual identity within the religious context, being a member of the LDS Church, and what conversations do you have on a yearly basis and on a regular basis with members of the church, or even members of your family that maybe are still a part of the church? Because I also have friends and family that are in LDS, and I've had many conversations with them about acceptance within the community, and it can be frustrating but also constructive to have those conversations. And I'm curious as to how those conversations are going and if they're continuing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thank you for asking. It's, my whole worldview was shaped by the Mormon Church. I didn't come out as gay till I was 30, which was around 2014. And I still kind of held on to this idea that maybe I could do both. Me personally, I don't believe that that religion is a true religion. But what I've really discovered in the years since kind of leaving the church and kind of dealing with some of the anger that I had towards the whole thing, I've really come out realizing that there are amazing people within the organization. And I think my sort of disdain never came, it was never aimed towards one member of the community of the LDS Church, but it was more just like the system that kept barring people to flourish in their own divine nature, and so for me, it's like my family has made incredible strides. My parents also left the faith a few years ago, and they're deep in their 60s, and it's not lost on me, and I'll get emotional to talk about it, but it's not lost on me that they chose their son instead of this faith, and it's a complicated thing. I mean, when you're talking about your existential stuff like your own mortality and existence and spiritual you know, life and all that. It's a lot to, it's very nuanced. You know, members of my own band are still trying to make it work as well. And I think, you know, what I've really been blown away by is everyone's meeting me where I'm at and really supporting who I am. And regardless of religious or political views, I think I've really been able to like prick a few hearts and really like make people realize like, yo, I'm the same guy and probably even better for it, coming out and living my truth. And you know, I think for a while I became so self sort of loathing, you know, and I am so kind of far beyond that person, which is really personally exciting for me. So yeah, I'm so grateful that there are people that are on this ride with me that I love, that support me. It makes all the difference, you know. So
That's amazing. Yeah, man. I mean, I'd be curious to know about your journey before you came out. What role music played in your life? Because obviously it's a big one that's led you here too as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I fell in love with punk rock and new wave and sort of like artists that kind of blurred the lines a bit. You know, I was always a fan of Bowie and Freddie Mercury. I was always a fan of Morrissey from the Smiths. So I kind of just hid. I mean, hid might be even the wrong word, but I sort of just kind of found myself in those kinds of scenes and where it was kind of free, it wasn't questioned. Music's always been the kind of place where I could kind of like hide in plain view. I was able to be completely myself on stage, you know. I think it wasn't a shock to some people when I came out because I'd already been known in the band for a while. And but for me, it was such a personal kind of merging of all these kind of like double lives I felt like I was living after a while. And the one constant, like it's never lost to me, the one constant has been music, you know, and it doesn't get old, and it still like gets me up in the morning, and it's the thing I get to do, which is sometimes shocking. It's amazing that I get to do it. So it's definitely my lifeline for sure.
Did your relationship with music change once you felt like you didn't, you know, use that word hide? Did you feel like once you could sort of, you were out in plain view, do you feel like your relationship with those songs and those bands changed? Did you feel like more different sides of music sort of found their way and wove their way into your music or into your tastes?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've always been a fan of pop music and dance music, and you know, I don't know how much of it is me just coming out and living openly and honestly. But it also might be a lot with culture. I think, you know, when I came out, when the band first hit, I mean, we're kind of looking at it now like a decade ago, like things were really different actually. And the strides we've made for acceptance within the LGBT community, but within so many other like marginalized communities is really kind of astonishing. So for me, like even when I came out in 2014, it's a different day now. And I feel super free. You know, whenever I perform, ever since then, I've always felt just not afraid. I think there were times before them where I was afraid, like, am I being too flamboyant? And there's no place for that in music, you know. It should be the freest, most open place, you know. So
100%.
Did the band know well before the public did? Because, you know, you guys came out and had a lot of really big success as a band before you actually came out.
Yeah.
If they knew beforehand, was it a hard balance for you as a band to keep that under wraps? And what was that like internally for the band?
So I told my producer first, who I was making our third album with. And after I tested the waters there, I told my mom, who was really supportive, but also very scared. And then right after that, I started telling the band. But it was probably about 4 or 5 months before I did a story in Rolling Stone that sort of announced my coming out in 2014 in March of that year. And, you know, everyone was just like so happy for me, but I don't think anyone cared as much as I thought. You know, I was fed a lot of messaging, and maybe it was just dated ideas, but I was fed a lot of like, this might ruin your career stuff that maybe lingered in from the early 2000s with actors and actresses and musicians that were kind of afraid that it might mess up their career. I don't know. Looking back, I don't know if it did affect. I feel like I'm standing here with my band still, and we're doing the thing that we love, and you know, that's all I can say. So like for me, I think it's only improved, the whole situation.
Well, now obviously it's been a bit. You've all come out with new music now, and a lot of the songs on your new album are about a relationship that you had, a specific relationship. And what has that been like, as far as, you know, you're no longer in contact with this person, and, you know, you've written openly about your relationship and about writing about your relationship. You know, what does it feel like to actively write about your relationship now, and, you know, getting back out there and doing live performances about this relationship that still feels, at least through your music, very real and raw?
It's I think it's a lot like anything I've ever written about. Like I think I really put as much of myself and my experience in these songs. We haven't really gotten to perform too many of these new songs because of COVID, so it's pretty exciting to have all this new in our repertoire. I feel really far from that relationship, which is really exciting. But I knew it was important to talk about that weird space that a lot of, I think, my peers and people feel, is that isolation that you feel, that desire that codependency, that the desire that you wish that person would just respond to you. I felt very lonely and isolated in that relationship after a while, and I think a lot of people do feel that way. And I know maybe it's a kind of a sad topic, but I think a lot of people responded and connected to that album, so I'm happy about that.
Speaking of breakup records, you ever spend time with the new Olivia Rodrigo album?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Speaking of, that's so funny. It is funny how sometimes, and you know, you as a creator, you have that catharsis, and me as a consumer, as a journalist or whatever, it's so funny that I don't feel like I have that language. A lot of times there's these feelings that you have. You're like, God, if only like someone could like organize this for me. And then it's not only that you do it with lyrics, but the sound as well gives you this emotion that you just can't be as a human being, you know, texting your friend or having a long phone call. I gotta imagine that helps. I gotta imagine just yourself get distancing from an emotional, traumatic experience.
Yeah. I think too, like, you know, I got everything I needed to say about that out, and you know, I totally agree. I am so stoked that kids, I hate wording it this way, but kids today have an Olivia Rodrigo. Like, that's so badass. I love what she's doing. So I think it's really exciting.
Well, and people are probably happy to have a Tyler Glenn. You know,
Well,
I mean, you talk about the people that you that inspired you when you were growing up, and who shaped you as an artist and as a person, and have fans or listeners reached out to you about you being a role model to them, because, you know, especially even other gay kids in LDS, or that are or that want to make music.
yeah.
I'm sure it's been really, really helpful and life-changing for them to see somebody like you, you know, out there in the public eye, out and proud and living their truth.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, you know, I do hear from a lot of people, and it's not lost to me that there's still people that need a mirror image. You know, I get so comfortable in my own skin where it's like, cool, we've made all these strides, and everyone should come out. And then you get granular and you go, there's still so many people living in these isolated little existences that need, you know, some sort of reflection to make them feel like, oh, it is safe to be okay, and myself.
Yeah. I long for the day where no one has to come out anymore.
Yeah, no, totally.
Well, it's been so great talking to you, Tyler Glenn. New album, I got the chance to listen to it. Can't wait to see you in concert again. You guys put on such a great show. I Can Feel You Forgetting Me is out now. Tyler Glenn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for your help and time.
See ya.
Happy Pride.
Bye.